long before history carved its first symbols into stone. Before kingdoms rose, before faiths formed, and before humanity learned its own name, the world belonged to giants. The earth trembled under the footsteps of monstrous predators. Landscapes shifted with ancient storms, and survival was a daily battle written in blood and instinct. Yet, in this brutal world stood the earliest humans, small, fragile, and unprotected. No tools, no weapons, no language. Only fear, fire, and a fierce will to live. Every sunrise was a victory. Every night was a test. And in this endless struggle, humans discovered something that even the giants could not conquer: the power of unity, intelligence, and courage. Today, we travel back millions of years to witness a world ruled by colossal beasts, and to uncover how our ancestors, the first humans, stood their ground against predators that could crush them in a single strike. This is the forgotten era where survival shaped destiny, and where humanity learned what it truly means to fight for life. In the beginning, survival was not a choice or a challenge, it was the only rhythm of existence. Millions of years ago, when early humans took their first uncertain steps into the wild world, they entered a landscape that showed no mercy. Towering forests, endless grasslands, and volcanic plains stretched across the earth, each filled with predators far more powerful than the fragile beings who would one day dominate the planet. Early humans were small compared to the giants of their age. Their bodies lacked thick fur to shield them, sharp claws to defend them, or powerful jaws to tear through flesh. They had no weapons, no shelters, no language capable of forming plans. At first, all they had was instinct, a silent inner voice warning them when danger crawled near. Every day began with fear. Before dawn, when darkness still ruled the horizon, early humans gathered in tight circles. Their bodies trembled from cold and danger, and their minds stayed alert to every rustle in the grass. Even the wind could bring panic, because it carried predator scents that humans had learned to understand long before they could speak. They lived among ancient beasts that could end a life in a single moment. Enormous cats with saber-like teeth stalked through tall grasses, their eyes glowing in the dark. Packs of hyena-like creatures with bone-crushing jaws roamed the plains, constantly searching for easy prey. Massive birds with wings wide enough to block out the sun soared overhead, ready to snatch away a child in an instant. And yet, early humans ventured deeper into this brutal world every day, driven forward by hunger, curiosity, and something else that even they didn't fully understand: the innate desire to endure. The first rule of survival was awareness. Early humans listened more sharply than any creature, their ears trained to catch the faintest movements. A snapping twig could mean a hidden attacker. A sudden silence among birds warned of something far worse approaching. Their survival depended on reading the land, reading the air, reading each other. Fear shaped their instincts, but instinct slowly shaped intelligence. When a massive predator hunted nearby, humans froze, communicating through their eyes rather than their voices. A tilt of the head, a widening of the pupils, a shift in posture, these tiny signals allowed them to move as one. Without speaking a single word, they understood danger and reacted almost instantly. These moments revealed the earliest sparks of cooperation, the first seeds of a mind that would one day outsmart even the fiercest hunters. Their days were spent searching for food, yet every step on that quest carried risk. While gathering berries or scavenging abandoned carcasses, they constantly scanned their surroundings. The tall grass was both friend and enemy. It hid them, but it also hid the monsters hunting them. The moment the wind changed direction, their hearts raced because they could suddenly smell what stalked nearby. When predators approached, early humans relied on speed. Their legs, though not the strongest, were built for endurance. They ran farther and longer than nearly any other creature. Sometimes, that endurance was the only reason they survived. If a giant predator charged, the humans did not try to fight it. They fled in bursts through the grasslands, running in unpredictable patterns to confuse the hunter. They dashed toward rocky areas, climbed trees, or hid among thorny bush where larger beasts struggled to reach them. They survived not by strength, but by knowing the land better than the beasts. But running couldn't save them forever. As time passed, humans learned a new kind of survival, one born from observation. They began to study the behaviors of the predators around them. They noticed patterns. When a cat's tail flicked a certain way, it was preparing to pounce. When vultures circled in the sky, a large kill was nearby. When distant herds stampeded, a giant was moving in their direction. Slowly, humans began to anticipate danger instead of merely reacting to it. They learned to mark safe paths, avoid known predator territories, and move silently through the wilderness. Knowledge became a shield, one more powerful than claws or fangs. Cooperation grew stronger with every close escape. When one member saw danger, the entire group responded. The young stayed in the middle, protected by adults who had already learned how to face predators without falling apart. If a beast approached their camp at night, the humans used stones or sticks to create noise, not to fight but to intimidate. Some predators recoiled at this strange defiance from creatures so small. The early humans didn't know it yet, but they were tapping into something that no predator possessed: unity. The greatest turning point came from fire. When lightning struck dry land and ignited a burning tree, the humans watched from a distance with awe and terror. But over time, they approached it cautiously, realizing that predators feared the glowing force. Eventually, they carried burning branches back to their gatherings. With fire near them, the night no longer belonged to the beasts alone. Fire offered warmth, light, and most importantly, protection. Its crackling flames pushed the larger monsters back, giving humans their first sense of control in a world designed to destroy them. The nights were still dangerous, but the circle of fire gave them courage. It allowed them to rest, heal, and plan. And as their minds grew sharper, they discovered that even the giants could be outsmarted. Their courage deepened when they realized that together, they were not as helpless as they once believed. Every hunt they observed, every predator they escaped, taught them new lessons. They developed primitive tools, using rocks and sharpened sticks not to conquer the wild, but to survive within it. Even the act of sharing food strengthened their bonds and sharpened their understanding of life. Generation after generation, early humans carried the memories of danger, not as fear but as knowledge. Their story was carved not in stone but in instinct, in reflexes, in small but powerful changes to their minds and bodies. They became more resilient, more aware, and more connected to each other than any creature around them. Through countless battles between life and death, humans slowly transformed into something no predator expected, a species capable of thinking ahead, planning traps, working together, and using intelligence as their greatest weapon. As generations passed, something remarkable began to awaken within early humans, an inner shift that separated them from every other creature sharing the ancient world. Their bodies were still small, their strength no match for the giants that stalked the plains, but their minds were beginning to stretch toward new possibilities. It started quietly, through patterns they noticed without fully understanding. They realized that danger was not random. If the wind carried a certain smell, if birds scattered in a specific direction, if distant herds suddenly fell silent, it meant something was moving long before they could see it. These observations slowly turned into memory, and memory became strategy. They learned to store information and use it, turning simple instincts into early forms of reasoning. Groups that once acted purely out of fear now began to act with purpose. When they traveled across the land, they remembered safe watering holes, hidden caves, and vantage points where one member could watch for predators. They learned the routes of migrating animals, the seasons when certain fruits ripened, and the paths most avoided by dangerous beasts. Each piece of knowledge was a small victory, a step toward survival built not on strength but on understanding. As their awareness grew, so did their ability to communicate. It began with gestures and sounds, simple expressions of warning, hunger, or recognition. But over time, these signals became more complex. A raised hand could stop the group. A specific sound could signal danger approaching from behind. Another sound could call the young to stay close. This primitive communication allowed them to coordinate in ways no predator could anticipate. Their unity was no longer just instinctual but intentional. Small ideas formed in their minds, like sparks waiting to become flames. They began to shape stones with greater skill, creating sharper edges and more reliable cutting tools. At first, the tools were simple, but even simplicity meant progress. A sharpened stone could break bones to access marrow, allowing humans to consume nutrients other scavengers could not reach. That added strength helped them endure longer days and more intense threats. They learned to use sticks not only for digging but for probing dangerous areas before stepping into them. Over time, these tools evolved into basic spears. At first, they were clumsy, but the idea behind them was powerful: distance. Humans no longer had to be within reach of a predator's claws or jaws to defend themselves. A thrown object carried force that made even fierce beasts hesitate. Every new tool was a symbol of emerging intelligence, a quiet revolution happening in the minds of beings who were once prey. Fire, which had once terrified them, became their greatest ally. They learned to maintain it, protect it, and eventually carry embers from one place to another. Fire changed everything. It hardened wooden spears, making them stronger. It allowed them to cook food, transforming their diet and giving their bodies more energy. This surplus energy helped fuel the growth of their brains, which only made them more observant, more curious, more capable of adapting. Around the fire, they gathered not just for warmth, but for connection. In its glow, they formed the earliest forms of social bonds, comforting each other, sharing food, teaching their young, and staying alert through the night. Their minds began linking past experiences to future possibilities. They understood that what happened before could happen again, and that planning might save their lives. This ability to imagine the future, even in simple terms, set them apart from every predator they faced. As their intelligence grew, they developed a deeper sense of cooperation. Hunting and gathering were no longer solitary acts. A handful of humans could distract an animal while others collected resources. When facing potential threats, they began forming protective circles, each adult taking a specific position without needing to be told. They became a coordinated unit with purpose and structure. With each passing season, their communication became richer. Their vocal sounds gained variety. They formed new tones to represent danger, food, shelter, water. The beginnings of language slowly emerged, not through sudden invention but through necessity. Communication allowed them to share knowledge more efficiently. Lessons that once died with the individual now spread across the group and eventually across generations. This made their progress faster than any creature around them. Whole groups began learning to move silently, to avoid stepping on dry leaves or brittle branches. They learned to mimic the calls of birds to confuse predators or to send subtle signals to one another during hunts. When approaching a watering hole, a place where beasts of all sizes crossed paths, they planned routes of escape ahead of time. They understood the land not as a threat but as a map waiting to be read. Their social connections deepened as well. They tended to the injured, protected the elderly, and taught the young how to recognize danger. No other creature cared for its weak with such commitment. This compassion created stronger groups, ones that refused to abandon any member. The presence of elders meant the presence of wisdom and archive of experiences that taught younger members how to navigate an unforgiving world. Over many generations, their minds continued to evolve. Humans began shaping their environment, not just adapting to it. They used fire to clear paths through dense brush, making movement safer. They placed stones and patterns to mark dangerous territory or safe return spots. They learned to store food, hide resources, and build primitive shelters from branches, leaves, and animal hides. They tracked herds not out of desperation but with intention, predicting movements days in advance. Their survival was no longer accidental. It was the result of thought, planning, and cooperation. The giants of the ancient world still towered over them, but humans, for the first time, were not simply running, they were calculating. Predators that once saw them as easy prey began to hesitate, sensing something unfamiliar in these fragile creatures. They were not the strongest, nor the fastest, nor the most fearsome. But they were becoming something far more dangerous. A species that could observe, remember, predict, and create. A species that understood the power of unity. A species learning to bend the world to its will, one small discovery at a time.